Hello and welcome again to this edition of FiTV. I'm your host, Brad Swanson. We are coming to you just a few blocks from Florida's capital in the studios at Florida Internet and Television. Today I am joined by Bob McClure, the president and CEO of the James Madison Institute. Bob, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Brad.
Hey, great to have you on. All right, session is coming. I mean, Christmas is coming, but immediately after that, session is going to be upon us. Before we begin, just tell our viewers a little bit about JMI. Where do you guys come from? What's your jam? And then we'll get into what you're working on.
Sure. The James Madison Institute, also known as JMI, as you know, Brad, is Florida's oldest and largest think tank. And people often ask, what does that mean? What do we do? We're actually in the ideas business. So our job is to focus on good public policy for the state of Florida. And oh, by the way, Florida really is kind of the most important state in the country when it comes to policy and politics. So we also have the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. Our research and our principles are grounded in limited government, free markets, the protection of private property, the things that have made this nation great, and allow all Floridians and really all Americans to pursue their version of the American dream, of whatever that may be to them.
Well, and it's the ideas that come out of JMI that we know set the tone for Florida and our philosophy and our economy and our economic growth, which then sets the example for the rest of the country. So thanks for everything you're doing.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, Florida really leads. You know, you pick any index, best place to start a business, best place to grow a business, best place to be a CEO. You pick whatever your index it is, and Florida's always in the top 5. Why? Because we promote free enterprise here in the state of Florida and have been doing so for generations.
Right, and we've got great leaders that continue to champion those causes. No shortage of great legislators right now that are going to run those kinds of bills. Okay, so with session upon us, let's start on that. Talk to us about what is JMI going to be promoting, and I know you are a think tank, so you don't have lobbyists, but what are you going to be promoting in the Capitol this year?
Well, again, tagging on the notion of being in the ideas business, the state of Florida needs to be thinking further ahead. We really believe in it, and we actually have a 20 for 20 that your viewers can go to jamesmadison.org and see, and I won't go through all 20, but I think there are 4 or 5 that the state of Florida needs to focus on. Okay. One is, without question, we're a low-tax state, except the communication services tax needs to be addressed, and we would prefer elimination. We'll see what happens there going forward. We also think there are tremendous opportunities for school choice. The state of Florida is a leader in giving parents more choice and opportunity as they decide the best school educational option for their children. I think that's a second one. Sure. I think a third one is the future of occupational licensing, the ability to start a business, whether you want to cut hair or braid hair or run a limousine service or those kinds of things. The very people, those kinds of entrepreneurs, the underserved communities that we often see where these kinds of jobs can really help economic opportunity are being stifled by licensing and schooling and costs that really affect the state of Florida.
It is amazing, some of the comparisons about like how many hours it takes to learn how to fire a tank or shoot a missile versus how many it takes to be a hairdresser. And it's like 50,000 hours, I'm exaggerating obviously, for these occupational licenses versus like 500 hours, you know, and it's crazy.
And it's the very people who don't have the means to pay those kinds of dollars or the transportation to get there for the training that need easier opportunities to start their own business.
Economic turbocharger for sure. All right, what else you got?
Healthcare, patient-centered healthcare. Florida last year did some really great things in the legislature. We need to continue to drive patient-centered healthcare, protect the relationship between the doctor and the patient, and not allow bureaucrats to get in the way. I think you're going to continue to see the governor do a lot of things on the environment. You know, so often people think conservative/Republican, anti-environment. That's simply not the case. There is a free enterprise way to address the environment, to focus on Lake Okeechobee, to think about the Everglades that really makes sense, that's best, that can not only protect the environment, but also protect the taxpayers.
Yeah, and so before we jump into that environmental issue, because it's got a direct nexus to our great governor who's working so hard on these issues, let's go to CST, because obviously that's one as representing the cable industry and the internet and television industry. You know, we collect and remit that, but that is one of the most complex and regressive taxes that Florida still has on the books. I mean, you know, how do you see JMI talking about that this year?
Well, it's interesting. You know, President Ronald Reagan once said the nearest thing to eternal life on earth is a government program or government tax. And you know the history of the tax there, and there's really no need for it. The reality is the more you have taxes in place like these, it stifles innovation. It requires more, as you said, collection, remittance, and all of those kinds of things. And we honestly think it should be eliminated. There's no need for it.
Right.
It doesn't affect Floridians. It doesn't. It's not about the coffers of the state of Florida. And so we think the opportunity is there going forward to eliminate the entire thing.
Well, thanks to Representative Fisher and Senator Hudson. I know we've got a bill out there, so I know Florida Internet and Television will be side by side with JMI on that. Okay, so let's jump into this governor. I mean, he has really been running with track shoes on from the day he got there, and on issues that I would say folks would not accord to a conservative Republican governor. But let's go back to that environmental issue and tell us how you guys see Governor DeSantis and how he's moving the ball forward.
Oh, I think he's doing a tremendous job, and I think he's far more popular today with independents and members of the Democratic Party than he was when he was elected. If you remember, he won by 30,000 votes, and yet he's done a number of things that kind of transcend traditional party allegiances. He's really focused on the Everglades, Lake Okeechobee, the blue-green algae situation. Now, we all know that Mother Nature plays a role in that. There's only so much that we can do, but he's addressing it. He's focused on it. The other thing he's done is he pardoned the Parkland Four in Jacksonville right out of the box when he became governor, which is something that should have been done years ago. The African-American gentlemen that were accused during the time of Jim Crow of raping a white woman and who were innocent. Those are the kinds of things that the governor is doing. He came out 2 weeks ago with a transparency initiative in government, how government spends its money. Every day he seems to have a new initiative. He believes that school choice should continue to grow and expand to give parents the opportunity to choose the best school for their children. He understands the power of free enterprise and the power of free markets, and every single day he has a new initiative. He has new ideas. Teacher pay is another one. So as we go forward, he continues to grow in popularity because he's actually governing in ways that Floridians agree with.
Yeah, and he's doing it within the means of what Florida is currently generating, and not looking to ask for more from Floridians, but keeping within it. So doing more with what we already have, which is great and laudable for sure. Okay, so let's jump into the election. James Madison Institute always has overlapping issues with major federal currents and themes that most voters gravitate towards because that's what they see on the 6 o'clock news. How are you looking at the 2020 elections? And Florida always is, if not one of the top 2 or 3 linchpins in the election makeup.
Yeah, I always believe that Florida, as I said at the beginning of the interview, is that Florida really is kind of the single most important state when it comes to policy and politics. And we're certainly the largest swing state. Demographically, the entire country's here. We continue to grow. The population is dynamic. We have roughly 900 people showing up in the state a day. We have all demographics represented in the state. It's not the state of shuffleboard and retirees anymore. It's very dynamic. Having said that, Barack Obama won the state twice. Rick Scott won the state twice. Donald Trump won the state once, and Ron DeSantis won the state once. And in every one of those elections, the winner won by less than 1% of the vote. And so you think about that with its additional electoral votes. You think about what that means for the rest of the country. The state of Florida is positioned politically in 2020 to really kind of set the tone for the future of the country.
Yeah, it's amazing. Even though everyone goes to Iowa, everyone is heading to those northern states because of the timing on their primaries. It really comes to that big southern swing. It's almost like the PGA, right? Once they hit Florida, that's the game stopper, and you could have done well, good or bad in either of those 3. But if you're not carrying Florida, it's ball game.
That's right. No, that's absolutely right. And Donald Trump did that, and we saw that, and as did President Obama.
All right, so as we look, Florida's going to be heavily charged with election spending, not just for the federal candidates, but we've got House members that are up. So we're going to see the full political mechanism outside of the policy mechanism in full play. You're seeing groups like the American Legislative Exchange Council. They've got their annual meeting by no lack of strategy
no accident there.
In Florida in July, which champions at the national level the very issues that JMI is about. How do you see that that is a harbinger, if you will, for belief and support of small government, lower tax type policy?
Well, Florida's the model. I mean, Florida's the third largest state in the country. Its state government continues to reflect that kind of limited government, free market, American dream kind of history there, and it's a proven model that works. So if you add into that the electoral vote, so you have not only the policy side, but then the political side, which is the reality is that either candidate from either national party needs the state of Florida to win the presidency. You're going to continue to see national groups come into Florida, hold their conferences here. You're going to see national groups politically spend a lot of money in the state because it's so critical to the future of not only the election, but the future of good public policy in the country.
Yeah, I mean, Florida really has been, leading on so many issues that, might defy, some of the sacred cows. I mean, we removed CONs, certificate of need, and really opening up the medical system to a free market philosophy. So many others, school choice, I mean, the list goes on. So Florida continues to lead. And really, when you think of sacred cows, there aren't any anymore in this game with this governor and this legislature.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. Pick an issue. Education reform, the tax and regulatory environment, private property rights, technology is another one, Brad, that's going to be huge. Florida is leading the way and having the conversations that the rest of the country needs to be having. And, as you know, technology has become a big issue for JMI. We have the Center for Tech and Innovation. We held the summit. You guys were a great partner in that summit, and we're grateful for that.
That was a great summit.
Well, it's only going to grow. And one of the things that someone once said is that, JMI seems to be having the conversations the rest of the country is not thinking about. And so when we think of technology, when we think of tech and innovation and how that 5G and driverless cars and all of those kinds of things and where we're going as a state and a country, we go back to our original idea. The state of Florida needs to lead in these kinds of issues, and technology is just the same.
Well, I know our members are continuing to lay the groundwork to start deploying 10G, which is the 10 gigabyte data that all the 5G and everything else is going to plug into. So we'll stay on our side on that one and keep tight with JMI on how we advocate together. Final thoughts. What's coming up for JMI during session?
Well, we'll have our 20 for 20 that your viewers can access at jamesmadison.org. We have our annual dinner, which is February 19th. We're hosting Kimberly Strassel from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. So Kimberly's going to be here, and we look forward to having you guys be a part of that, as you always are. And if your viewers want to learn more, they can just visit jamesmadison.org.
Well, Bob, thanks so much for coming on FiTV. We always appreciate hearing your perspectives on where Florida is going, and we encourage all of our viewers to always hit up your website to see what's next in free thinking policy. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.